Hello, welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. I just did my little hello, welcome to Rough Cut Film Review, and then I said it in a really strange way, so then I was practicing a famous line from The Usual Suspects. Give me the keys, you, etc. If you know that film, you might get a laugh out of that. If not, you won't. Let's just say you won't. So, rambling aside, this is a review of Jack the Giant Slayer, and I've just about got it in time for it to be relevant. I think it's still in the cinemas. I had very little interest in this film, if I'm completely honest, but I had some time to kill at the cinema, and so I watched this film. It's the latest Hollywood attempt to take something that's old and well regarded by people and turn it into some money. I get the impression here they're not just simply trying to make a successful film, they're trying to get the new franchise. So we've had Harry Potter, we've had Twilight, what's next? Who knows? But it's not going to be Jack the Giant Slayer. This film has really tanked at the box office. Apparently, this has made less money than John Carter, thanks to a focus group, it's just called John Carter. Yeah, so its opening weekend was even less successful than that. With all the money it spent, marketing, etc., it's got to make an absolute fortune, and it's got nowhere near that. Apparently something like a tenth of what it really needed to do, the numbers it needed. So, Jack the Giant Slayer, it is, on the one hand, it's a very unremarkable and arguably cynical film for the reason I've just given. But to be completely fair to it, it's not a bad film, and there were bits in it that I did sort of enjoy. I didn't massively enjoy it, but I didn't dislike this film. It's been written by an incredibly generic team of screenwriters. There's about 4 of them, and they've got just generic, they've made some films before experience. It really does have that production line quality about it all over this film. There's the sort of fingerprints, the DNA of this film are production line cookie cutter kind of stuff, and the film itself really doesn't have its own personality at all. So we start off the story with some naff CGI backstory. There were some giants, they were bad, they ate people, there was a good king who banished them up the beanstalk, as it were, and people have sort of forgotten whether or not they exist, or whether they're just a fairy tale. Oh, good lord, but are they real? I think we're going to find out. So, it's a story of young love, class divide, adventure, betrayal, and a terrible performance by Ewan Bremner. The cast is actually really good, and I like a lot of them. So there's Stanley Tucci. Is it pronounced Tucci? I'm going to say yes. Who I think is fantastic. Ewan McGregor, he can be a bit duff in things, but at worst he tends to be likeable, and in some things he's very good. Ian McShane, he's good fun, even if he does sort of take himself a bit seriously, and there's various other people in it as well. The 2 young love interests are perfectly fine. There's a princess, and then there's the farm labourer who turns into a giant slayer as the film progresses. There is the whole thing is so incredibly forgettable, it's remarkable. But there is one rare standout scene for me in which McGregor's loyal knight character is made into a giant sausage roll for some giants, and that's sort of fairly amusing. It's very formulaic, it's just by the numbers. Bryan Singer directs it, he does an okay job, but the famous director, quite frankly, he lifts scenes almost entirely from things like Harry Potter, from Lord of the Rings. It's that cookie-cutter, generic, this is not an original film and it doesn't have an original idea in its head kind of thing. Committee thinking, cynically made, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff said, I didn't hate the film, actually, to be perfectly honest. I didn't think enough of it to hate it. But at times, Stanley Tucci was on screen. It wasn't so bad. For a couple of hours on a wet afternoon, it was perfectly serviceable stuff. I saw it in 2D. The opening CGI backstory stuff looks really bad. It almost looks like it was outsourced to a third party who did a really rubbish job, making it on someone's Apple, like they'd borrowed a friend's Apple Mac or something like that. That looked pretty terrible, but it did get better as it went on, but still, all looked very generic. I almost feel bad for the people that worked on this, actually, because I very much suspect that there were an awful lot of very talented people that worked on this film, and it's just so generic. It's really struggled, as John Carter did. March, for such a blockbuster, we're not in the summer yet, so it's a difficult time to be pulling this kind of thing. I would have thought with the bad weather that might have helped the cinema trade. But I'll tell you what, the only thing that really this film really makes me want is, I don't want to see a sequel of this. I have no interest in that. But I would like to see Stanley Tucci in a really nasty My Little Eye kind of film, as a as a really chewing the scenery, crazy, terrifying baddie. Because here he's a baddie, and he's not. He does quite a good job of it, actually. But it's in a sort of a U film. I'd like to see him in quite a nasty, grimy little film. And that's pretty much my thoughts on the film. Jack the Giant Slayer. We won't see this again. Kind regards, Christopher Thomas.